Had a good time at the movies last night. I saw Renfield, which is a tale of two Nicks. Nicholas Hoult plays Renfield, and Nicolas Cage plays Dracula. And everybody is incredibly hammy in this movie, which also features Ben Schwartz, yes, the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog, as the son of Shohreh, Aghdashloo, who are part of this huge criminal enterprise in New Orleans. And what we see in this movie is a little bit of time travel through the eras of Dracula, and Renfield is his familiar, his helper, who basically helps to bring all kinds of victims to Dracula so he can suck their blood. And this is a movie that's filled with tons of over-the-top violence and crazy shenanigans. Awkwafina plays a cop in modern-day New Orleans, which is where Dracula and Renfield eventually end up. And we see them intermingle with these mobsters, and they get caught up in it. And we see that Renfield is going through this crisis of conscience. He's trying to find a better life for himself and starting to think that maybe he shouldn't associate with Dracula. And so the movie sort of puts us in the middle of all of these different conflicts. We see the cops, led by Awkwafina, and a police force that she's got this kind of caustic relationship with, trying to grapple with their connections to the criminal family enterprise. And we see Renfield kind of grappling with his own self-worth, and we see Dracula just kind of wanting to have more people to eat and drink from. And so there's this interesting intermingling of all of these different elements, and caught up in the middle of it is a script that isn't afraid to go bonkers and have crazy stunts and people flying all over the place and blood gushing in all kinds of crazy directions. This is not for the squeamish or the faint of heart, and it's incredibly noisy and people just telling everybody to F you all the way through this movie. Ben Schwartz, I think, is really relishing the scumbag that he gets to play in this movie. At one point, he's throwing bags of cocaine at the cops as he's trying to run away. And the movie feels very loose. It feels like there was probably a lot of improvisation on set and people having a little bit of fun with things. I do have to say that the beginning of the movie, which does a really cool job of using like old movie footage to set up the history of Dracula, is loaded with a lot of slower paced exposition, and it's hurling a lot of information at you. And then it starts to ratchet up and it starts to get a little numbing, but the movie leans into its insanity and its over-the-top campy qualities and the crazy violence and just the anger issues that everybody on screen has. And there's even some interesting therapy sessions which have some pretty good comedic moments in there as well.
He won't grow to full power.
Exactly. He won't grow to full power. What? That's so weird. Why would you phrase it like that? But yes, he's right.
And so the movie's a little bit of a ride that you kind of have to have some patience for, and you got to stay with to get the most out of it. I do have to say that the pairing of Nicholas Hoult and Awkwafina on screen was hilarious. I think that they had great chemistry and they bounced off of each other really well. They're just this incongruous pairing, this super-powered vampire familiar and this angry cop that's trying to deal with all of the corruption and the violence and the chaos in her city. And they're silly together, but they also kind of fit. And I have to say, Awkwafina is just so freaking charming and funny. I love her voice and I love her choices. She's really entertaining to me. And Nicholas Hoult actually does a pretty good job with all of the action pieces that he's got in this movie. He's got lots of superpowers, especially when he ingests some bugs and he can flip and fly and throw people across the screen. And Nicolas Cage is really solid as Dracula. He's such an incredible actor, and he gets to play Dracula with various kinds of prosthetics on him and a great accent, and he's just relishing the moments that he has on screen. So it's fun to watch all of these pieces. It's not a perfect movie. I think it's going to live on as sort of like a cult movie, and people will find it on streaming services or late at night on TV. But I do think it's an entertaining trip to the movies, so if this looks interesting to you, I'd say go for it. I'm going to give Renfield a 7.5 out of 10.